Welcome to Horror Year, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you're brave enough to face your darkest fears and uncover the most chilling tales, you've come to the right place. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and subscribe to Horror Year. Your journey into terror begins now. Submitted on Reddit under the nickname Wandering in Darkness, this account represents one of the scariest real-life experiences ever. A camping excursion that swiftly devolved into a nightmare is where it all started. Mike, Sarah, John, and Emma made the decision to spend a weekend traveling far into the Appalachian Mountains in 2017. They desired to get away from the bustle of the city and have a first-hand look at the woods. The most adventurous member of the group, Mike, picked the campsite, which is miles from the closest town and situated in a remote forest clearing. No signal from a cell phone, not a single person, the wilderness and them alone. Everything went well on the first day. They made camp, cooked over the open flames, and told ghost stories to each other. Up until the sun set and deep shadows were cast over the trees, everything was fun and games. That's when things started to go weird. It was around midnight when the gang heard it for the first time. There was a slight rustle coming from the dense forest encircling the camp. They initially wrote it off as the wind or an animal. However, the sound became more intentional and louder. It wasn't the timid steps of a deer or the gentle breeze rustling the foliage. There was a deliberate, gradual crunch of footsteps, like someone or something was keeping an eye on them. "Did you hear that?" Emma broke the quiet with a murmur. Grabbing a flashlight, Mike pointed it in the direction of the sound. The light beam passed through the woods, showing nothing, just a thick forest with no animals or movement. In an attempt to soothe everyone, John shrugged and said, "Probably just a raccoon." However, the uneasiness persisted in the pit of their stomachs. The noises persisted as the night went on. It was footsteps sometimes, whispers at other times. Weak, unintelligible whispers, hardly audible. Emma claimed to have seen movement out of the corner of her eye, but upon closer inspection, she could see nothing. They eventually withdrew into their tents, although it was difficult to fall asleep. Sarah's sense that something wasn't right persisted. It went beyond the unsettling sounds. It felt like they weren't alone, and their sensation of dread was building. Sarah woke up with a start around 3 in the morning. It was unusually cold in her tent. Inside, the air felt heavy, almost stuffy. She cast a quick peek at Mike, who was sound asleep and not reacting to her mounting fear. Then it reached her ears, a deep, gruff voice that came directly from outside the tent. She couldn't understand the language it was speaking in, but it was definitely human. The voice circled around their tent gently. She froze in terror. This was not a woodland creature meandering around. There was someone or something observing them from outside. There was no signal when she reached for her phone. It would not be possible for her to call for aid even if she wanted to. The voice became more demanding and louder. Then the tent's zipper suddenly started to gently unzip. Sarah's pulse pounded. Her eyes filled with terror, she shook Mike awake. "What's that?" He muttered incoherently, but before she could respond, they both noticed it, a dark silhouette standing close to the tent's edge. Mike reached for the flashlight, aiming it at the figure, but the figure was gone before the light could reach it. There was nothing but the silence of the forest. Too scared to sleep, they spent the remainder of the night awake. They decided to shorten their journey by packing up their camp and heading out in the morning. But the fear persisted. They had the same uneasy sensation of being watched as they walked back to the trailhead. Occasionally, they would hear footsteps a little way behind them, but when they turned around, nobody was there. They were unable to completely exhale in relief till they arrived at their car's safety. However, they never really got over that night's recollection. Sarah is adamant that they were being followed by an entity other than humans even to this day. In an attempt to get an explanation, she posted the incident on Reddit, but she received none. Some users said it was a local spirit or a skinwalker. Others claimed it was all a mental deception caused by their seclusion fooling their senses. Sarah, though, was more astute. There was nothing natural about what was in those forests. It was a shadowy, antiquated object, and there it remained, waiting. Nobody is aware of the true events that took place in those woods, despite the fact that this story was listed among the scariest real-life encounters. There's just one thing for sure: there are some things best left unseen. This real story describes an incident that happened in a mid-tier hotel in New Orleans in 2015 and was first posted on Reddit by a person going by the handle Lost in Nightmares. This is a tale that will make you shiver and force you to reconsider where you decide to stay on your next vacation. It was to be an ordinary business trip. The 29-year-old graphic designer Brandon reserved a stay at the famous old hotel in the French Quarter while traveling for a business conference. The hotel was said to be haunted because of its history and elegant architecture, but like most people, Brandon didn't think that ghosts existed. He wasn't superstitious, but he did enjoy a good horror film. The front desk worker said that although room 611 was a small corner suite with a bit of character, it was perfectly fine for him. After a hard day of traveling, Brandon headed up to his room, eager to unwind and get ready for his appointment the next day, not giving any thought to the ambiguous phrasing. But there was something strange about room 611 from the moment he entered. Not only did the room appear outdated, but certain areas of the wallpaper had some flaking. The atmosphere was it. It had a weighty feel, nearly repressive. However, Brandon dismissed it, blaming it on the age of the building and New Orleans' oppressive humidity. He unpacked his belongings, then tried to unwind by lying down on the bed and going through his phone. It was then that he became aware of the sound for the first time. It started as softly, like a low hum, but it got louder with time. It had the sound of a whisper. Brandon put his music on hold and listened carefully, feeling his heart start to rush. The murmur ceased. He laughed at himself and shook his head. He whispered to himself, attempting to persuade himself that he was being stupid. Must be the people next door. However, upon inspecting the adjacent room, he found no sound emanating from within. It was utterly vacant. Things began to get more serious at that point. Later that night, when Brandon was preparing for bed, he became aware of an odd cold draft in the space. The temperature felt odd, no matter how much he tweaked the thermostat. It was icy cold, like air from an open freezer, not the normal cool breeze you get from air conditioning. The room's closet, a big rickety wardrobe fitted into the wall, appeared to be the source of the draft. He made an effort to ignore it because he thought he was overanalyzing things. It was an ancient structure after all, and old buildings always have their peculiarities. He got into bed and turned out the lights, exhausted. But slumber refused to come. He woke up abruptly around 2 in the morning. The alarm clock on the nightstand glowed a pale green in the complete darkness of the room. There was a problem. It seemed to him that he was no longer alone in the room. And then, softly, he heard it once more. However, it wasn't faint this time. In his ear, to be exact. Heart thumping in his chest, Brandon bolted out of bed. He surveyed the entire space, taking in every shade. When he realized the muttering wasn't coming from outside the room, his breath caught. It originated from within the wardrobe. The closet door was slightly ajar, and it appeared as though frigid air was suddenly pouring out of it. As Brandon gazed into the blackness within the closet, his body froze in fear. Something seemed to be watching him from inside. With all the bravery he had, Brandon turned on the bedroom lamp and let the room fill with a soft golden glow. The murmur ceased. There was a startling hush in the room. However, the closet door stayed ajar, almost beckoning him to take a closer look. He had no intention of opening that door. Brandon remained in bed for the remainder of the night, staring at the closet while all of the room's lights were on. He had trouble falling asleep. He believed he heard faint whispers every now and then, but he would not look again. Exhausted and nervous, he went down to the front desk the following morning and requested to be moved to a different room. The middle-aged woman working at the counter didn't appear astonished and had a knowing expression on her face. She raised an eyebrow and said, "Room 611?" Brandon gave a nod. She sighed and leaned a little closer. Quietly, she remarked, "You're not the first person to ask to switch rooms. There is a history in that room." Intriguing as well as terrified was Brandon. He questioned, "What kind of history?" The cashier paused, casting a quick glance around to make sure no one was watching. In that room, a guest passed away years ago. While the authorities claim it was a suicide, several staff members think something worse happened. Ever since, visitors to that chamber have reported unexplained experiences, including whispers, chilly drafts, and a sense of being seen. Nobody remains there for very long. In a hurry, Brandon packed up his things and moved out of room 611 to a different room on a different floor. Although the remainder of his stay was uneventful, he could never forget what had happened in room 611. Years later, he can still clearly remember the chill, the whispers, and the chilly air coming from that closet. Numerous Redditors have since posted similar experiences with room 611 at the hotel in New Orleans. While some believe it might be something more sinister, others believe the chamber is haunted by the spirit of the guest who passed away there. Whatever it is, there's no denying that room 611 is a place where dreams come true. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Now I want to hear from you. What did you think about today's video? Do you have any tips or ideas you want to share? Let me know in the comments. Also, what topics would you like to see me cover next? I'm always open to suggestions, so drop your ideas down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.